right. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a breaking pop-up kitchen episode of Pass Gumbo here. Quick start off real quick. My name is Corkenstein. We are here. I'm one of the hosts, our other host here for Pass Gumbo. We have to my right on the screen, Goldshell.
How's it going?
Doing good, buddy. And to the right of him, we have Token or Q. I'm not sure. Do you want to be called Q or Token? I know Q from your first name, but...
Yeah, I mean, are we going... If we're going by... You guys are going by gamer tags. I might as well go by mine, too. We just keep it with the gamer tags.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just do Token then. Just because, like, I'm not sure if you guys are comfortable sharing real names and stuff like that. Something we probably should have discussed, but I don't know. I was just like, oh, gamer tags, gamer show. Let's just keep it friendly and, you know, light and stuff like that. But no, yeah, we'll do gamer tags. Perfect. Figuring that live.
When we were playing, when I was playing Diablo Immortal with Jez, he would call me Goldie. So just kind of stuck, I guess.
I mean, if you want us to start calling you Goldie, I will start calling you Goldie. Yeah,
works for me, man.
You know what? Let's just get into the nitty gritty of this. You guys we've already seen it. I'm pretty sure there's a million other people popping up right now talking about this late breaking news. For those that haven't heard, Xbox has announced per Matt Booty, sources broke by IGN, that Xbox is closing 4 studios. They're shuttering down. Well, they're merging 1, closing 3. With possible merges and layoffs and stuff like that for the other ones. So the 2 biggest ones, Arkane Austin and Tango Gameworks, are both shutting down. Tango 100%. Arkane Austin is having layoffs and merging with Arkane Lions. And then...
well, the email specifically said other Bethesda studios, so not necessarily just on Arkane deal.
Yeah, I figured they would be moving on to other Arkane studios, but I mean, it is fair, it's Bethesda, so they could really much go anywhere. The other 2 are Alpha Dog and Roundhouse. So Roundhouse. I'm thinking of the movie with was it Patrick Swayze, I think,
or Jake Gyllenhaal more recently.
Jake Gyllenhaal, yes, sorry, it's very early in the morning for me here at 9 a.m. I woke up to this news at like 7 or 8. That. Yeah, and I need to...
pretty good. You should.
Yeah, I need to get some more coffee and food in me before we probably have civil discussion. But yeah, let's just go ahead and just get right into the nitty gritty of it. Gold, your opinions on this?
Okay, first of all, I have been...
Actually, should we read the email from Matt Booty first, just to give a little bit more context here?
Yeah, let's start off with the full context of the email, and then we can work our way from there.
All right, copy. Yeah, so yeah, as you can see, we're doing this on the fly. This is late breaking. We're trying to figure this all out. Let me switch over to the email. I have it up right here, and then I could just read it off real quick for those that are interested.
Definitely not the way we wanted to start off our second video.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we are not hungry right now. So today I'm sharing changes. This is coming from Matt Booty per IGN, who sourced it and verified this email is real. Today I'm sharing changes we are making to our Bethesda and ZeniMax teams. These changes are grounded in prioritizing high impact titles and further investing in Bethesda portfolio of blockbuster games and beloved worlds which you have nurtured over many decades. To double down on these franchises, invest and build new ones requires us to look across the business to identify the opportunities that are best positioned for success. This reprioritization, or I can't say that word right now. This reprioritization of titles and resources means a few teams will be reassigned to others, and some of our colleagues will be leaving us. Here are the changes going into effect. Arkane Austin, this studio will close with some members of the team joining other studios to work on projects across Bethesda. So you are right. Arkane Austin has a history of making impactful and innovative games and is a pedigree that everyone should be proud of. Redfall's previous update will be its last and all development on the game. The game and servers will remain online for players to enjoy and will provide and make good offers to players who purchase the Hero DLC. Alpha Dog Studios. This studio will also close. We appreciate the team's creative in bringing Doom to new players. Mighty Doom will sunset on August 7th, and we will be turning off the ability for players to make any purchase in the game. So Alpha Dog completely closed. So that's one of them. Tango Gameworks. Tango Gameworks will also close. We are thankful for that contribution to Bethesda, and players around the world. Hi-Fi Rush will continue to be available to players on the platform it is today. So Tango Gameworks, 100% shuttered. Roundhouse Games. This team at Roundhouse Games will be ZeniMax Online's, or will be joining ZeniMax Online Studios. Roundhouse has played a key role in many of our recent game launches, and bringing them into ZOS to work on the Elder Scrolls Online will mean we can do even more to grow the world that millions of players call home. With this consideration of our Bethesda Studio team so that we can invest more deeply in our portfolios of games and new IP, a small number of roles across select Bethesda publishing and corporation teams will also be eliminated. So it's not just devs, it's also publishing, marketing, social media, things like that. Those whose roles will be impacted will be notified today, and we ask that you please treat your departing colleagues with respect and compassion. We will provide our full support to those who are impacted in today's notifications and through the transitions, including severance benefits informed by local laws. These changes are not a reflection of the creativity and skill of the talented individuals at these teams or the risks they took to try new things. I acknowledge that these changes are also disruptive to the various support teams across ZeniMax and Bethesda that bring our games to market. We are making these tough decisions to create capacity to increase investment in other parts of our portfolio and focus on our priority games. Bethesda remains one of the key pillars of Xbox with a strong portfolio of amazing games and thriving communities. As we look to the future, there is an impressive lineup of games on the horizon. In 2024 alone, we have Starfield Shattered Space, Fallout 76 Skyline Valley, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and the Elder Scrolls Online Golden Road. As we align our plans and resources to the best set ourselves up for success in the complex and changing industry, our teams across Arkane, Bethesda, ID Software, Machine Gun, ZeniMax, and other Bethesda publishing and corporate teams will be well positioned to build new IP, explore new game concepts, and expand on our existing franchises via the booty. So now that we have that, there's some context there. Let's go into it. Everyone should be caught up to speed, unless I made some people fall asleep during that. Back to our beautiful faces. Gold, go ahead. Let's see what do you think of that? One, Matt Booty's press release. Two, the info that he shared.
All right. First of all, I just want to layoffs suck. I've been under a layoff before. I was lucky enough to get a severance, a pretty sizable severance. So hopefully I understand, as someone who has 3 kids and a wife, getting laid off, the worry of severance, because a lot of those severance packages aren't really cut and dry. I think I waited, 3 or 4 days before I got an official what my severance is going to be. So a lot of anxiety attached to that. So my heart goes out to people that get laid off. Second, this isn't a time to be a fanboy. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. Let's not root for this as a whole gotcha because you had an agenda or a point. Come on. This just sucks. It does seem like it's not complete layoffs. It does sound like there's a lot of shifting and moving to other projects outside of Alpha Dog and Tango. Tango stings quite a bit. I loved Ghostwire Tokyo. I loved Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush was my game of the year in 2023. 2023. That was an old school video game. The music was incredible. I still have the soundtrack. I when I'm mowing the lawn or what have you, I definitely have the Rush, the main menu music playing in the background while I mow. It's awesome. I kind of understand the other three studios, but Tango, I don't know. They were so excited about them owning a Japanese studio, but then they shut it down. I don't know the inner workings of it. I'm hearing some rumbling about maybe a lot of talent left with Shinji Mikami and stuff like that. But I mean, Shinji Mikami was a producer of Hi-Fi Rush, but I mean, John Johannes was the actual director, right? And then you had, I forgot his name, started with a K, who did Ghostwire.
Kenji Kimura, I think his name is.
Kenji Kimura, yeah, that sounds about right.
I might be wrong, but I think it's Kenji Kimura.
But you had the rumors, and I know the Bethesda leak came out during the FTC. You're talking about Ghostwire Tokyo 2. Pretty excited. But the big rumor that came out, and I think this was a Extras. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but I think he's a big Spanish language Xbox YouTuber. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was talking about rumors circulating around Tango getting some sort of Xenogears kind of JRPG for the Xbox platform. Now that's not even happening. We don't even know if that was a real thing, but I got real pumped for that. So, yeah, Tango, that one stinks.
I'll kind of give a take on that a little bit later, behind the reasoning, I think, why. I do think there needs to be a little bit more. The way that they came out with that news wasn't great for Tango. I think they definitely deserve a lot more explanation on the why, given the surroundings of porting Hi-Fi Rush. I think it was not the best way to just say, guess what, we're closing them, bye. Even I think Bethesda's own release on Twitter was a little kind of just short and brief. So to that point, I'm not sure why. I think we do need a little more explanation, but I'll give that later on. Let's jump over to Q real quick. All right, your take on Booty's email, Matt Booty's email, and the news of the closings. I'm gonna go grab a quick water. I will be right back.
All right. So first and foremost, like Goldshell said, layoffs suck. Studio closures suck. This sucks. As an Xbox fan, as a fan of gaming in general, it sucks that they're closing 4 studios. In particular for studios, from Bethesda. I'm sitting here playing Fallout 4 for the first time ever, and I've just been like, over the last couple years since the Bethesda acquisition, I've basically been like, me discovering these games is one of the best things that happened as an Xbox fan for me this generation. Not that I never looked at the Bethesda games or any of the ZeniMax, not just Bethesda, ZeniMax in general, but it's not that I never looked at the ZeniMax games. It's just that they were always kind of like on the back burner, like something else pulled forward in front of them. My dad loved the first Dishonored game, and I was just like, oh, I'm not really into stealth games at the time, so I didn't play it. But then when I finally did play, I loved Dishonored 1. I thought Dishonored 2 was amazing. I thought Death of the Outsider finished the Dishonored series really well, and anybody that thinks Dishonored 3 is coming out, you're wrong, because you didn't play Death of the Outsider. Anyway, I'm sorry. I think, and just like Goldshell said, and I kind of want to push a little bit against it. I know everybody's biggest surprise in this is Tango Gameworks, right? Everybody's surprised that they closed Tango Gameworks because Hi-Fi Rush did really well. I thoroughly enjoyed Ghostwire Tokyo, even though it had severe technical issues. It was pretty, the gameplay was fun, the story was decent, but it had severe technical issues. Rush was just a gem in all ways, shapes, and forms. It's disappointing that, because we kind of build up this expectation that because Xbox is part of this big, major, multi-trillion-dollar corporation, that they can just afford to like hold on to these things. And as somebody that's not in the business, like, we would assume that they would, but we also got to remember that Microsoft's $3 trillion doesn't translate to Xbox's money necessarily directly. Xbox is a company under Microsoft, So everybody always wants to bring up the Microsoft is a $3 trillion company. It's like Xbox is Xbox still is like a $24 billion company. So that's still a lot of money for like to be talking about. But Xbox isn't a $3 trillion. Just because Microsoft has all this money to throw around willy nilly doesn't mean Xbox does. Because you know why they are able to say we're a $3 trillion company? Because they don't just throw out money to be used all willy nilly wherever. It's I think we all always want more information when it comes to stuff like this. Matt Booty didn't have to put out any more. That email is not even for us. That email is not for the public. That email is for people that work at Microsoft. I'm pretty sure the people that work under Xbox have a better understanding, inkling of what's going on with these closures than we do, but that email wasn't for us. That was for them. So it's like, well, we want more information, of course, because we're fans and we pay attention to this, but at the same time, it's like, we'll probably never get more information other than the studio closed, because guess what? That's all they really need to give us is that, hey, this studio's closed, this game's canceled, whatever. They don't need to give us reasons because we didn't spend money on it. If we spent money on some stuff, that'd be different. So, giving people money back for the Bite Back edition for Arkane, that sucks, because I actually really enjoyed Redfall. Also another game that had a lot of technical issues, but
I will say before you move on real quick, that email, it's very corpo speak, because it was assumed that email was going to leak. So while it wasn't for us,
the email's good. Yeah,
while it wasn't for us,
that it's going to leak because they always leak. But it's not for us. So
while it wasn't for us, it was worded very much for the public, knowing it was going to get out.
Yeah, because they're not going to type. He's not going to type out an email being like, "Yeah, we closed Tango Gameworks because we couldn't hire anybody there anymore, and we closed Arkane Austin because Redfall sucked and everybody didn't."
Oh no, definitely
he's
not.
Not going to write that email out.
No.
So it's like we're not going to get. We're getting the information through an email that, like you said, is sensitized insider information, unless somebody like decides to spill the beans on it. Again, it sucks that these studios are closing. It's weird for the talk of Tango Gameworks that Tango is one of the studios that's closing. But I personally feel that like a lot of this still stems from the reason Bethesda ZeniMax was acquired in the first place. And that's because they weren't in a good position. Like, financially, as a company, they weren't in a good position before the acquisition from Microsoft. Like, it's taken years for Fallout 76 to get to a point where people are like, we rocking with it. The 2018 wasn't a good look. 2019
and a successful TV show.
And a successful TV show. But like, if we're looking at Bethesda outside of Xbox, let's look at Bethesda if Xbox didn't acquire them. They acquired them now. We're putting all the blame on Xbox. But let's take a look at Bethesda ZeniMax if they weren't acquired. Yeah. Starfield wouldn't have been delayed to 2023. People complaining about the way that Starfield came out now. Imagine if it would have came out in 2021 or 2022 like it was supposed to, which probably would have happened if they weren't acquired by Xbox, because ZeniMax wouldn't have been able to afford to delay the game 2 more years from when it was supposed to. It was supposed to come out in 2021.
Yeah.
Like, they wouldn't have been able to delay the game for 2 years. Redfall would have came out in 2022 as an NTX-laden microtransaction machine looter shooter, and it would have got an even worse reception than it did currently under Xbox. Yeah. And that's what, even though Prey is very critically acclaimed, it was commercially unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Roundhouse Studios don't have anything under their belt. They were Human Head Studios before, but Human Head wasn't doing that great. When we talk about Human Head, what we talk about? We talk about Prey from 2006. Name a game from Human Head Studios after Prey in 2006 that was like successful and good.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned this too, because Bethesda definitely wasn't in a good place. I don't think, I think they were in an okay place, but they weren't in the place, in the position that they are now with getting these, Starfield and these bigger games, and with Xbox underneath them. I mean, most times that's usually the case for a developer and publisher. Look at EA and Ubisoft. Those guys, what do you see most in all of their games as a developer and publisher? A ton of microtransactions, which really wasn't Bethesda. Sure, they had them, but not to the level, in my opinion, that Bethesda did with some of their titles. An EA title, you have FIFA, Madden, with these ultimate teams, and with Ubisoft, all their single player games are extremely MTX ridden. So with that,
and to my understanding, Bethesda was trying to ZeniMax was trying to hold off on that for a long time,
which is partially why probably they weren't as big as that.
So, and just to wrap that up, because I don't want to harp on I don't want to make it be like, oh, these studios were bad, so they got closed.
No, they weren't.
It's an extension of what was going on with Bethesda in the first place before they got acquired by Microsoft, and it's just you can't save everybody. We thought as fans, and I think this is partially, I won't say it's our fault as fans, but it's to have expectations of goodwill from a corporation isn't always the smartest thought process, even if they, Phil Spencer's out there. I'm pretty sure Phil Spencer is a great guy in person, but at the end of the day, he still make business decisions. He still, at the end of the day, his job is to make sure that Xbox's bottom line looks good. That's his job. His whole job is to make Xbox's bottom line look good. Part of that job is making sure customers are happy, because if customers aren't happy, then the bottom line isn't going to be happy. But part of that decision is also hey, some of our decisions aren't going to be the ones that all of our customers appreciate, but it's better for the bottom line overall. We're talking about Hi-Fi Rush, right, with Tango, and how people love that game and how it was successful for the small game it was. But again, it was the smaller game of the two games that Tango Gameworks put out in the last several years. How well did Ghostwire Tokyo do? Because that's the bigger, people, we want to be oh, Hi-Fi Rush was such a gem and such a joy, but Hi-Fi Rush was the side project of Tango Gameworks. Ghostwire Tokyo wasn't. Ghostwire Tokyo was their major project, and they lost the creative director for that when Ikamura left, and she started her own studio. Even though, you pointed out before, the Gold Shell, Kenji Kimura might have still been, or he left. We don't know. We know that people have left, and we know that we've heard rumors, and I forget where the rumors come from. You cited sources. I appreciate that. Maybe next time I'll do that. But I remember, we heard rumors of there being difficulty with them building up the team, right? And then people left with Ikamura, and people probably left with Shinji Mikami, and the people that are left were probably hey, we don't know. So. Because it is weird that Tango is closing. So it's not the only thing, but people want to automatically be the corporation doesn't care, and it's Microsoft just closed them for whatever. And it's it might just be because it wasn't there. They've talked about it. Phil talked about that before. They closed studios. Microsoft has closed studios over the years multiple times because talent left, and it was well, do we try to bring people into the studio, or do we just cut our losses and focus somewhere else, right? That's what happened with Digital Anvil. That's what happened with a couple of their other older studios that they had before. Talent left, and then they were well, do we rebuild a team, or do we close it and refocus our energy elsewhere? And that's a tough decision to make. But if you're if Tango wasn't building up the way that they wanted to, if they were looking to make a larger Japanese studio, but all they had was the resources to make a Hi-Fi Rush. Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush is great, but you don't want that to be the focus of your big Japanese studio if that's what you want Tango to be. There's a lot of other stuff that could happen, but I've been talking. I'm not.
No, and that's fine. So I think. So yeah, we got Gold, we got you there. So for me, I think, I mean, even Elijah Vasquez down there says, I don't get why people are overreacting to this news, but hey guys, thank you, Sir Bloodraven, High Shell cooking lunch. So be on the lookout for a post in food chat. Good timing. Definitely, yeah, I would love to see that. Let us know what you're cooking while you're here. But to follow up on it, I think what it is Tango, the games are good. They're a beloved franchise. There's somebody, or a beloved studio, but I don't think they're the commercial success that people thought they were. Hi-Fi Rush, another one. The way that it was a Tango Gameworks decision to not market it and to do a drop, a surprise drop. Yeah, the shadow drop on us.
That people are blaming Xbox for, by the way, when John Johannes specifically said himself, no, we wanted the shadow drop it.
Yeah, this was definitely done by them. And then
now people are like, oh, Xbox didn't market the game.
And well, I think the thing is, those people are like, oh, they don't care about Japanese developers. And there's a lot of hyperbole going on with all of this. And that's not the case. I think the reason why Hi-Fi Rush was ported is to give Tango that benefit of the doubt. Hey, we know Hi-Fi Rush was largely released and marketed in our own ecosystem. That's on us. Let's port it. Let's get it to PlayStation. But I think by the time, and Nintendo, by the time that happened, it was too late. And let's be honest, I don't think Tango had anything in the works for the last probably 4 years, at least for the next 4 years, 5 years, maybe. At least anything big.
They just finished 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
Like literally, they just finished Ghostwire Tokyo, and then Hi-Fi Rush came out.
So with that, like where were they going to see the return on investment?
For the next 3, 4, 5 years, nothing.
And it sucks. I know people are like, oh, well, I guess they're abandoning the Japanese market. Not necessarily true. I mean, you guys got to think about it like this. And listen, I'm not trying to trivialize what's happening with studio closures. I'm taking my emotion out of this because I know some people are going to be like, they'll say, oh, he's just a bootlicker or whatever. That's not the case here, guys. I'm taking my emotion out of this, and I'm looking at this from a perspective of overall look. When you have, I mean, like you were saying with Phil Spencer
Real quick,
and Matt
what
Booty,
is your emotion on it? Just out of curiosity, so just to give real quick.
No, definitely. I think it's horrible. I think it's awful.
Okay.
I hate studio closures. I'm a former developer myself. I hate studio closures. I hate layoffs. These are real people that are going to be affected. Especially in Japan with Tango Gameworks right now, the Japanese yen's like the lowest it's ever been. I think they're looking at a possible recession. I think it's not a good time to be out of work in Japan. It sucks. So, I mean, it's not a good time to be anywhere, sadly, in this world being out of a job. But yeah, so
it's
that's
lower than the good low then.
Yeah,
the yen right now it's low because I know they were doing when I was just to let everyone know, I lived there for 3 years. I was stationed over there in the military. I do remember, and I might be off base here, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they intentionally devalued the yen or something or other when I was there for
tourist growth.
Economic reasons.
Yeah,
for growth and trade with the United States. And then so now you're saying it's lower than that to the point it's becoming detrimental.
Well, I think that's the reason why they're doing it, is to get ahead of it, is to lower the yen, get more, because of COVID. COVID hit them really hard. And that was tourism was a big part of their economy. So that once COVID happened, it just snowballed, and they kind of, it just snowballed, and now they're trying to make the yen lower to get more investors and more businesses and more tourists to come back into the fold. But yeah, so that's my emotion on it.
It's interesting too because now this is coming from my perspective. I was over there when Fukushima Daiichi happened, and it took them a good couple months to get back on their feet, but tourists started coming back and stuff like that. Because I remember I had a couple, it was a German buddy and a British buddy. When Fukushima Daiichi happened, their governments actually flew them out of Tokyo Haneda Airport to their home countries. That's why I was able to go visit them and do a Euro trip, is meeting them. But that looked like they had I wouldn't say quick recovery, obviously way more quick than COVID. So, yeah, I keep forgetting that COVID affected everyone versus, for the most part, Fukushima just affected Japan and the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on.
And to circle that back in, COVID is also a large reason why a lot of these studios overhired, why a lot of these studios did what they did, and why we're seeing a lot of layoffs now, why we saw Starfield delayed, while we're seeing some titles that usually would have good polish and shine be a little, lackluster here. And to wrap that back in, that's the reason why we're seeing, the industry kind of shifting and moving into a new market, or not a new market, but a new, I guess, view on the market, like going multi-platform, opening up your ecosystem more, because a part of it is COVID related, and the costs that cost the industry, a ton of money. I mean, yeah, you're going to be saying, oh, these companies make, just like Q was saying, this is $1 trillion company, they could afford it. It's like, that's not how budgets work. That's not how business works. Xbox, is $1 billion company. They're the ones that still have a budget to uphold. They're the ones that still have it's not a free check to just do and say whatever you want. You don't become $1 trillion company by, keeping businesses, you don't become $1 trillion company by giving a game, that only made $10 million, but cost you $100 million to make. It's just, that's not feasible. That's not good business. And this is where the logic of me to loop it back in comes in.
Big Microsoft isn't giving. I was about to say, Big Microsoft isn't giving Xbox extra allowance money after they spent through theirs. That's not what's happening. Like, that's what people think. They think like Microsoft is just like, oh, Xbox, you spend all your money, here's a little more, you're fine. No, it's like,
listen,
you got what you got.
That basically Xbox was like, hey, mom, dad, can I have my allowance money for the whole year to buy Activision and ABK? And they're like, sure, but you're not going to get any Christmas presents or birthday presents this year. That's basically what happened. They wasted a lot of their budget on this big double down, which has been very beneficial for them. But even still, that's just what it is, to go back into it. My logic side of this is Tango Gameworks. I think they pivoted too late. They marketed Hi-Fi Rush in their own ecosystem. I think Ghostwire Tokyo did great, or at least wasn't, I don't know. I thought it was a commercial success for what it was. But maybe we don't have the numbers there. This is why I think we need a little bit more why from Tango and from Xbox on why, because the perception is Tango was doing great. Hi-Fi Rush is awesome. It was a very critically acclaimed game, but again, marketed in its own ecosystem. And I think they pivoted too late to get it out to the markets to bring in that money. Now you're stuck here with a 4 or 5 year possible development time on, let's say, Evil Within 3 or, Ghostwire Tokyo 2. You're not going to see that for 5 to 7 years now. Where are you going to get that?
Not to cut you off.
Yeah.
But here's my thing again. We're talking about Hi-Fi Rush again. We're talking about Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush was a side project. This is not me putting down the game. This is just me trying to understanding it as what we're seeing from the studio. We don't know about Ghostwire Tokyo, and that's the bigger factor than Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush was a critical darling. It was successful. Everybody loved it. But yes, that was the side project.
Yeah.
What are the numbers for Ghostwire Tokyo? How successful was Ghostwire Tokyo? That's more important to what this understanding of what happened with Tango than Hi-Fi Rush is. And I'm not saying that Hi-Fi Rush isn't important. I'm just saying the conversation has been going for Tango and it's kind of weird that the side project is the major part of the conversation. Like, is that not is it just me with that? That's like,
no. I mean, to be fair,
that's like
Hi-Fi Rush.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's like Pentiment. That's like focusing. That's like focusing that's like being like Obsidian's whole. That's like, we're looking at Obsidian and Obsidian's whole entire upcoming thing, and we're like, oh well, Avowed, and I'm not saying this is gonna happen. I'm very much looking forward to all these games, but Avowed doesn't do good. Outer Worlds 2 doesn't do good. But oh my god, why did Obsidian close? Pentiment was amazing. That's the conversation that we're having about Tango Gameworks. And I'm not saying that Ghostwire didn't do well. I'm just saying if it didn't, because we don't know.
A part of that though is because Hi-Fi Rush, technically, I would consider it a double A. I don't know how other people, I think it was so critically acclaimed, it took that next leap and then became a AAA kind of title with them porting it to PlayStation and Nintendo. But I think on release, it was something very new, something very small, like a side project. That's typically, kind of a AA title that I think has blown up so much and became so beloved that it's taking a highlight. And I think people are weaponizing it as critically acclaimed game. Here you go. Why are you closing Tango Gameworks? They're weaponizing what Hi-Fi Rush did for Xbox and how it resonated with gamers.
But forgetting about the rest of Tango Gameworks, because
it's the most recent release. And I mean, it is fair.
And
it's one of Xbox's most critically acclaimed games, first-party games to come out in recent years that has done well across. That wasn't Xbox taxed, I guess you could say. And I think that's why, but I mean, more so people are weaponizing it because of its critically acclaimedness. If Ghostwire Tokyo was a game of the year winner or a contender, Hi-Fi Rush was considered by some, I think the conversation would be different. But because Hi-Fi Rush did so well with consumers, that's where we had kind of the issue, or that's where people are weaponizing it. But to go back to my original point on this, when you look at Alpha Dog, they're a mobile developer. They have King. Why do you need it? I mean, I know that seems so just blanket and lack of emotion, but this is why I gave that context to what I said earlier. Why do you need another mobile developer when you already have a multi-billion-dollar one?
A very small mobile developer studio at that. In a
Can
very
I jump in real quick?
Yeah,
in a very gaming industry area, because Nova Scotia isn't very gaming developer heavy.
Go ahead, Shel.
Go ahead, Scotia.
So I'm getting some people at me about calling them doomers earlier and saying I got people. No, all I did was ask you a legitimate question on where you would go if Xbox was to shut down. Today's studio closures has not got me into doom and gloom mode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really bitter about Tango getting shut down. I was bitter about Team 4 for Overwatch getting shut down and the narrative team going away. I'm still bitter at Microsoft for shutting down the Windows Phone. Just because I'm bitter about one subject doesn't mean the whole thing's bad. It's like with, okay, my kid made a mess on the floor. Doesn't mean I hate him.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed that I got to clean it, but it doesn't. I know that's a weird analogy, but I go on.
No. I definitely get your point. Like, there are doomers. There's people, like, I'm in a few Discords right now where, these people, they come in as soon as the next negative Xbox thing, anything they can spin as negative. Oh, I told you I was right. Blah, blah, blah. This is dooming. Xbox is doomed. Just sell yourself to PlayStation. I don't care. Just stop. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to have fair criticisms. Like I said, I think we need more explanation of Tango. Doesn't mean I hate Xbox. Doesn't mean I think Xbox is this evil overlord corporation. I mean, just because they're big, it doesn't mean big business equals bad automatically. I mean, I think capitalism sucks as is. I mean, we're not going to get too political on this, I don't think. I mean, food in itself is political in itself, but I don't think, being a gaming food podcast, I just don't believe, I believe this is the system of where we are with capitalism and how it applies to everything. And us as consumers, it's not our responsibility to understand that. It's not our responsibility to figure that out and be armchair CEOs. We're consumers. We buy things. We vote with our wallets. That's just all it is. It worked with Helldivers. If you guys do not like the decisions Xbox is making, do not buy Xbox games. It's that simple. I don't think it's that dire. I don't think it's that serious. But in that same sense, that's just what it is. If you don't like Xbox games and you don't like the decision that Xbox is making, go to a different platform. Funny enough, guess what? Every platform's an Xbox game now, whether you're on PC, whether you're on mobile, and now even PlayStation 5. it's just, that's just what it is. And with, go ahead, Q.
I was going to say, and other platform holders are closing studios. Other publishers are closing studios. Other publishers are laying off people.
Yep.
I get 100% if this was an Xbox only or Xbox majority thing. Now, part of my, and this goes back to the whole ABK conversation, like the over two years of ABK conversation about industry consolidation and who owns all these studios and publishers and stuff. Of course, with Microsoft, with Xbox being bigger than a lot of these other publishers in terms of the number of people and employees now with ABK, those numbers are going to be higher. So their stuff affects more people. And that sucks. It sucks hearing 1,900 people laid off. It sucks hearing 4 studios closed. That's just, but it's not like we wouldn't have heard these things if they weren't Xbox, if they were separate, if they were all separate, because let's be real. Again, we go back to it. 3 of these 4 studios would have closed like 2 years earlier, if not for Microsoft acquiring ZeniMax.
Yeah.
Arkane Austin probably would have closed immediately after Redfall was released. If it released in the state it would have released it if it didn't get an extra year development.
Yeah.
Roundhouse do we remember how like ZeniMax got Roundhouse Studio? Roundhouse Studios was like in a lawsuit because they built the game, dropped it, closed the next day, and then started a studio with ZeniMax, like literally the very next day after they closed their previous studio. And the publisher was trying to sue ZeniMax before they got acquired by Microsoft. Remember, they put a whole petition in about Microsoft acquiring, but they're going to shield them from the lawsuit. And then before Mighty Doom, what did Alpha Dog Games make?
Yeah.
Off the top of your head.
Yeah.
They made 2 games before Mighty Doom. Could you name them? Do you know them? Were they successful? Did they even, like, you know, these are studios that ZeniMax picked up to grow during a time where they were like, hey, we need something to grow, but we don't really have the finances for it. Because remember, they were trying to, this is from pre-Microsoft. This is Bethesda trying to grow stuff out, because remember, they made a whole bunch of acquisitions in like 17, 18, and 19 because they grew BGS from 1 studio to like 4. Like, you know, BGS added like 3 other studios to it. They added Roundhouse. They added Alpha Dog Games. They added these studios late when they were trying to turn around stuff. And now that like whoever was in charge then isn't in charge anymore, Microsoft is looking at these studios and being like, what's worth it, what's not. Again, I want to focus on Tango because I feel like everybody wants to focus on Tango, and I feel for all these studios. But it's reality, honestly.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, to kind of go back, I just want to read some stuff that we have in the chat. I don't want to make them feel like they're not listened to. Seems like it's an IP thing from Sir Bloodraven and focusing on games that can be platforms themselves. That is very true. They're trying to build a brand here, you know, of different games that they can market, whether it's TV show, whether it's, you know, everywhere's doing this, even Sony. They're trying to make TV shows out of games. They're building brands and platforms. Very great point, sir. Literally Sir Bloodraven. And then Boogs here is, this makes me very worried about Ninja Theory. Supposedly their margins are going to be low. We'll see. Who knows how much they've actually spent in revenue and development, but they've supposedly really refined and cut back with a smaller team. And we'll see what happens. Let's just put it like that. You know, who knows? Maybe it might come to PlayStation like a lot of other people have said it is. But just to kind of go back to the logic behind of what I was going to say, Tango, we've already talked about that. Alpha Dog makes sense. Why? Like you said, Roundhouse, they really never even got off the ground. Makes sense to just absorb, close, use those resources elsewhere and give them a benefit of a doubt. And then I already forgot the other one. Tango, Alpha Dog,
Arkane Austin.
Arkane Austin. let's be real. That team was demoralized. Harvey Smith just ran that into the ground. You can't rebuild that. You just can't. Once a team is done, it's done.
Are we blaming Harvey Smith?
I think the direction he took and the way that he ran as the studio director for Redfall wasn't a great one. And I think he didn't champion the idea. I mean, this is just me guessing. I don't really know, but I think he didn't really champion the idea of, hey, let's try and make this something great of Redfall. Yeah, this isn't in our wheelhouse, but let's open ourselves up as developers. Let's try and get this going. I don't think he really did that. It just, from everything I've read from Jason Schreier, I know not a great source, honestly, at least for me. I don't think he was somebody that really motivated as the studio director to push the team in a positive direction to kind of put their best foot forward. And then I don't think he actually communicated well, maybe, with Bethesda. You know, I know they were like Starfield, but you know, I don't know if he actually was like very heavily on, hey, I need help. Hey, you know, I'm you know, the ignored redheaded stepchild here. I need help, you know, kind of thing, to where Xbox would have been like, stop, hold on. Let's focus some time on Arkane and get this where it needs to be. I think they were just kind of like, everything's great until they shit the bed. Yeah, pretty much.
So I
think I just saw the Arkane Leon studio head, or whatever his name is, make some comment.
Oh yeah, Dinga Baka,
Yeah,
he definitely put out a series of tweets.
I could read those if you guys want. I don't have them pulled up specifically, but I could read them off my phone if that's something you guys want to delve into.
I've read through because I don't have Twitter, so I only get to read like every other comment. But what I was reading, he wasn't saying anything specific. He was just basically saying like, yeah, this sucks. Like, I'm gonna be real, like, you know, we're artists and we try to make games, and the corporate side of its position should be to help us make games. And he just expressing his discontent with the situation. So, but nothing really, like, nothing earth shattering or any kind of information that he put out, just him being discontent with hearing about other studios closing from the family of studios that he's a part of, which we're all with you. Like, sucks.
What is studio closures outside of Xbox have happened? Since I know there's a couple that Embracer shut down.
Oh, Embracer shut down numerous studios already. Sony shut down 2 or 3 already.
Embracer at the end of this year. Like, it'll be 3 separate. They split up into 3 companies.
Well, now they did.
They will be split up into 3 companies. Yeah, so they're not even. Embracer's not even Embracer anymore.
Before then, they did shutter a lot of. Sony shut down 2 or 3 recently. I can't remember exactly which ones. I'd have to look them up.
I know they shut down Pixel Plus.
Yeah, Pixel Plus was one of them.
Pixel Plus shut down. I know Media Molecule lost a bunch of people, but I don't think they shut down. I know they stopped working on Dreams.
I think they
discontinued Dreams and shut down, got a bunch of people. I
think they shut down the one thing that Sony shut down that really annoyed me was, granted, is it official that the Twisted Metal game was in the production?
I don't know.
It was never official. It was never official.
Never official?
Yeah, it was never official.
Well, if it was, that would be a bummer.
But I mean, the key point though, numerous studios and teams are getting dissolved and shutting down. It's just something that's happening in the industry due to overhiring of COVID. Everyone thinks these games make millions and millions and billions of dollars. That's not the case unless you have a GTA 6 or a Fortnite or, you know, a major game like that. You're not raking in the billions of dollars that you think these companies are. There are, like I said, this isn't our job to understand as consumers the inner workings of how a business should be ran. That's not our job as consumers. We play games, we enjoy games, we talk about games. You know, so when people start saying, "Oh, you could have just given more money," you know, or that's not the case. That's not how it works. Teams have budgets. There's overheads. I've managed numerous businesses.
Yeah. Money's not infinite. Like, it has to be spread out among things. And sometimes, and hey, maybe Tango had to die so Zoss can flourish. You know what I mean? Or not? Well, let's say somebody more specific. Maybe Arkane Austin had to die so Zoss could flourish, right?
I thought you were about to say Sega.
I thought I was going to say the same thing.
I thought you were going to say Sega.
No. So
let's.
I have been since ABK. Since ABK, and I'm very much like I was on the acquisition train, but since ABK, I've always been like, yo, nah, they need to chill and figure out what's going on before they start adding any more studios. I said if I wanted them to do another publisher, or something, it would be Sega, because the Japanese push, right? It's always been like if they're gonna get anybody else big, I say do the Japanese push, get Sega. But with the news right now, with the way the industry going, they need to cool their heels and focus on what they got, and let's optimize from what we got, because we still don't know. Right, and I understand some people have a concern outside of Bethesda, right? Because people were like, "Oh, but what about? Like, I'm concerned for Ninja Theory. I'm concerned for Double Fine. I'm concerned for Compulsion. I'm not concerned for all these studios outside of Bethesda because they're individual studios. If it was closures outside of just ZeniMax, I'd be concerned about these other studios. But I'm not at this time. I like." When it comes to the other stuff that they acquire, like ABK, it's like my whole thing has always been, are they still just going to run Activision as a COD machine? So that's going to be years in the future, but that's what we're at. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm asking in terms of like the future. But
speaking of which, we actually do have some great conversation going on in the chat right now with Boogs and Sir Raven. They do actually bring up a lot of really great points right here. So Boogs actually did say he's kind of worried about Ninja Theory. These are valid concerns.
That's a pretty aggressive chat going here. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. Yeah, this is awesome. I do agree. There are some concerns here that people should be worried. They're not unfounded. But just to read it off, he was concerned about Ninja Theory. Bloodraven makes a great point. Ninja Theory does a lot with MS related to UE5 too. So they have lots of value within the Xbox ecosystem. Very, very true. Them and the coalition with UE5 and that moving forward gives them a lot of value behind the scenes, which Boogs agree with. But we've also got the coalition, which he just said, and then Kate Rayner. Basically exactly what I said. Boogs, you are a very smart man. I love you. He just really wants both Bloodraven and Boogs both want Hellblade to do really well as well.
I do too. I'm super excited about Hellblade too.
So Gold, I do want to ask you. I want to give you some time to talk. Sorry, we've kind of just been talking over you this whole entire time because you are actually very knowledgeable. You have some really awesome experience and great takes on some of these things. Do you think that this is a concern for other studios? Do you feel that other studios should be worried?
Yes.
I mean, it's fair. I mean, go ahead. It's fair.
I would love to say no. I mean, that's just it. Everyone's job is on the line.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's. I mean, wasn't there some layoffs and closures on Epic?
I wouldn't doubt it. Everywhere, pretty much almost the whole entire game industry was hit by layoffs. I think the only ones aren't is Nintendo, but that's because they already have a very low overhead on labor and they work like 19 hours a day for the most part. I mean, that's a literal thing in Japan where people are working themselves to sleep. Mm-hmm. You see them passed out on this.
Comparing anything to Nintendo right now is just kind of asinine.
Yeah.
It's just Nintendo's a beast because it's like Microsoft, the main part of Microsoft being a $3 trillion company, Windows, it's just, but yeah, I think nothing's fine. I mean, even my job, you never know what's going to come up. Market trends, COVID was never really predicted. I mean, even when I was talking about Fukushima, no one expected a 9.0 earthquake to hit at just the right distance outside of Japan to cause a tidal wave and a nuclear fallout. Not nuclear fallout, but nuclear leak and all that stuff. So yeah, to say never say never. I guess I'd say never. But as far as Coalition goes,
but I don't.
Sorry, no, hold
as
on.
far as Coalition
Go ahead, Cole.
goes, they're pretty much the champions of UE5. So at the very least, they're going to support all the other studios. I think one of the safer studios is Coalition. I'm a little concerned about Obsidian. And the reason I say that is what's the word I'm looking for? I get a feeling that a lot of the side projects are getting shelved.
Okay.
And Obsidian does a lot of them. I guess I'm more concerned about Obsidian's side project. Well, I don't know. No, I'm going to take that back because Grounded was a side project, and that's almost, 40 million players right now?
Yeah,
I take back what I said. I think Obsidian's fine. I think Ninja Theory's fine. Not fine. I don't want to backtrack on what I said, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Like you said, I mean, my industry right now with the whole Boeing slowdown of plane deliveries, my industry's looking not too great right now either. We're doing the best we can. You just never know what's going to happen. That's definitely a great point. With that said, I do see your concern with Obsidian. I definitely see it because, I mean, Pentiment, that kind of side project that's more built out of love and the core concept of ideas. Are we going to start seeing games like that be shelved because, like Bloodraven said, they don't have a platform? Are they more, can you build something off of Pentiment? Really, realistically, t-shirts, maybe,
But do you need to I'll say for Obsidian specifically is like, we have to see Obsidian's major projects come out under Xbox first before we can say whether or not, like, we're talking about Pentiment and Grounded. Those are the two games that they've come out with since they've been under Xbox, but those are smaller team projects. They have Avowed. They have Outer Worlds 2. Outer Worlds was very successful for it being a smaller, for it being a AAA project. Avowed and project. I'm sorry, it wasn't AAA. Avowed and Outer Worlds 2, when they come up, they're going to be bigger projects than even the first Outer Worlds was, or Pentiment, or Grounded. So I think I want to at least see Avowed come out and see the reception of Avowed and see how well that does before we look at, is there a concern for Obsidian based on the side games?
Well, I mean, I think, go ahead, Gold.
So it's funny you bring that up because when these acquisitions were announced, I was excited about them for Game Pass purposes, but I was actually really concerned about one thing with the Bethesda one. Please don't make Obsidian a Fallout studio. I know people want Obsidian Fallout. I get it, but I loved Outer Worlds. I'm really excited about Avowed. When they announced Avowed, I picked up Pillars of Eternity 1 and played it on Game Pass. And then I loved Pillars of Eternity 1 so much, I picked up Pillars of Eternity 2 3 months before it went on Game Pass. Paid $60 for it, but I felt like I got my money. And then there was one thing I was a little concerned about when the Activision Blizzard. Oh, I'm a huge Blizzard fan. Really excited about Blizzard going under Microsoft. Maybe we can get them back to old school Blizzard, do what they want. But I was worried about Crash. I'm not a huge Crash Bandicoot guy. I was concerned that maybe we would never get a Banjo. And I got the little Banjo doll up here. I'm a big Banjo fan. It's one of the reasons, it's one of my biggest nostalgia about my Nintendo nostalgia is mainly Rare, more so than Nintendo. I want another Banjo game. I want another Conker game. And when I saw Spyro and Crash are arguably way bigger, I was thinking, I really hope Microsoft doesn't shelve Banjo because they got Crash in their back pocket. That's all I gotta say.
I feel like ABK hasn't been good stewards of the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro IPs outside of I guess
they made them recently at the very least.
Yeah, they did.
They remastered them. And then 4 came out for Crash, and that's cool. And that's more of a Toys for Bob thing than it was an Activision thing. But I don't think. Actually, so as somebody that doesn't have the nostalgia for Banjo-Kazooie like a bunch of other people do, and I've put in some effort into playing the game. I played it. I see why people like it from that time frame. Just in general, I feel like unless they're making like a smaller project, it's not going to. I don't think we'll ever get like a big budget Banjo game, because just in general, though, I think those platformer days are kind of like not done, but the platformer segment is a lot smaller than it was back in the day. Back in the day, you know, even the 360 era, platformers were huge. Like platformers were one of the main ways that people played games. And it was one of the main games that people bought for their children. But that's not the case anymore, because people buy Roblox for their children, and people get V-Bucks for Fortnite for their children. And it is no longer the largest audience for those platformer games is gone. So, and not to say that platformers won't still have a place. I just don't see them putting a major effort into making like a big Banjo game, or even with Crash or Spyro being more popular, a big Crash or big Spyro game, because I don't know if the returns are there. We'll see like how Crash 4 came out, because Crash 4 wasn't a huge title, but it was successful because they didn't put like a ton of like money into it. They just let Toys for Bob make a great game. So I can see them doing a Banjo like that, but I don't see them going into like, hey, this is one of our tentpole franchises for Xbox. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I do want to go back
if it's good, why not?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, I do want to go back to Gold Share. I think the point you were making though with Obsidian is that, yeah, they're going to have those big games, but do those justify the expense to make the Grounded, to make the Pentiment on the ones that you don't really know, right? Or did I get that wrong?
And exactly, because with the smaller games like Pentiment, I don't know, I need to find a source on this, but some people were telling me in a Discord that a lot of the choice systems that are coming with Avowed were inspired from Pentiment. So a lot of these small projects where they do interesting ideas, okay, cool. Maybe Pentiment's not for everyone, but they can use some of these small ideas and go, okay, let's dial this up to 100 and put this in another game. That's important why these games or these small games are, okay, I gave Pentiment a shot, I wasn't feeling it. But I did play, my brother and sister-in-law actually fell in love with Grounded. I don't know how, what was that, a 7-8 person team that did that? Bookster in the chat will probably tell me exactly.
Nah,
but that was a small team.
Grounded was like 15, and then they moved up to 25 at one point.
Okay,
so
still.
They're probably over
small potatoes compared
small
to
a 200-person team.
Versus that.
Yeah.
We need these kind of games, and that's my biggest concern right now. Microsoft, come on, guys. If you have a good pitch, and I don't think they're going to say, "Oh, that's a small game. We're not going to do it." I think they're still in the mindset of, if we hear a great pitch, we're going to green light it. Yeah. But
I think in general, they'll consolidate the number of titles that they're putting out.
Yeah.
Like in general, they'll consolidate the number of titles that they're putting out. Like I still think they'll put out smaller titles, but again, this is like, it's everybody. You talked about COVID earlier, Cork. Everybody bet big, assuming that the increase that they got from COVID was going to continue. And not only did it not continue, but they saw a sharp decline. It's not just that, oh, it didn't continue to grow, is that it shrank. Gaming has shrank over the last, 3 years since like we've come out the pandemic. And it's actually in 2023, it's actually smaller than it was at some points before. So it's like, it's not just that it's about that. Like, we're going to see less projects coming, because we are at this point where I feel like, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I felt like over the last couple of years, and this is partially because so many projects that were delayed and pushed back over the years started coming out. We've had so many games come out if we're not just looking at first party titles, just in general. There are so many games that came out that could have done well or should have done well, but just because the schedule is so tight and the budgets are so tight that these games have to be pushed out, a lot of that is floundering. And we're going to see that reduction. We're seeing the reduction in the number of titles coming out. And I don't know, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm saying that is an indication that like we have to adjust, because I'd rather there be less titles come out and each of those titles be more successful than for there to be more titles to come out and more titles fail.
So with that, I do want to say, I think though there's a more important thing though with what I think with Obsidian and doing these smaller titles for any studio, and that's is, as Xbox, you don't want to stifle that creativity. You don't want to stifle these people that have these love or passion projects like Pentiment, because when you start doing that, you start getting cookie cutter games. You start getting things that people aren't invested in. Case in point, Arkane Austin and Redfall. People weren't invested in that title that we're developing. It wasn't a passion project for them. Every game that gets made, as a former developer myself, you have to love, you have to be invested. This is your baby. You know, you're giving birth. Every developer is pregnant with this baby that you are shipping, and you are giving it to the world and showing, hey, Facebook, this is my baby. Look how cute it is. That's what you're doing basically as a developer. And if you're like, God damn, that's an ugly baby, it's just not gonna work out as well as you think it will. You know, what parent are you just gonna be like, hey, this is an ugly baby, look at it? You know, that's just, it doesn't work. And if the consumer sees that developers aren't passionate, you could feel it when you play a game that's just devoid of life, that's just devoid of what you're playing. You're like, okay, this is just kind of thrown together as like, cool. You know, the cool thing about Pentiment that I loved, when you were playing it, you could tell it was passionate that made it. There was something behind it, and everybody has it. They just don't realize it. When you play something and you get this good feeling sensation and you get engrossed, that's the passion that developers put into their games. I know you can't, it's not something that can be quantified. It's just something that you feel. And I just don't think that was there for Redfall, which was why it just felt so devoid of life, you know? And that's the thing though, is you can't, that's where I think kind of Obsidian might be in trouble as well. I do kind of think you were onto a little something there with that, Gold, is that they don't have that passion behind it if they're being told, no, Outer Worlds 2 and Fallout only. You know, make Grounded 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's all you're doing. And then, you know, you have Josh Sawyer that's like, hey, what about Pentiment? And they're like, no, that's an ugly baby. You know, it just doesn't work in that sense.
And you'll get Josh Sawyer going to another studio.
Yep.
But I mean, to be fair, Josh Sawyer himself, he knew like what Pentiment was going to be. He just wanted to make the game that he wanted to make. He was like, and don't misquote me. I won't misquote him because I'm not going to say specifically, but he was very much like, I understand, like, it's not a big, it's a very niche game, but it's a niche game that I wanted to make. And I do still, I want to, like, I am hopeful. I won't say that it's a definite, but I am hopeful that Xbox still gives the studios the opportunity to do those things. Unfortunately, passion isn't everything, because passion doesn't make sure that a game does well. Because we talked about Ninja Theory earlier. Bleeding Edge was a passion project.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the 30+ hours that I put in Bleeding Edge, but it came out, and then some people liked it, most people didn't, and then they moved on. And it's there is going to be some balance in like, can we afford to just put out, because it's the thing that people want to keep making the Game Pass effect. Is like, I want Xbox to have their studios put out the games that they want to make with the creators that they have, but at the same time, like, you can't just keep putting out stuff and only some people are rocking with it. So I mean, I think we're kind of still in the same conversation, but we're a little off of the Bethesda conversation from earlier. But like, yeah,
actually, it's a good transition to our next podcast.
True. I'm not as down on. I'm sorry. I just want to get. I'm not as down on the possibility of what is happening at Xbox in general off of just the news today. It sucks. It's today news. It's still very raw, but it's not. I don't think it's necessarily a this is the start of more to come. Like, this is the start of them slashing game projects and them cutting more studios and all that stuff. I think this is like I don't know where we're at in it, but I'm hopeful that it's not just, oh, this is where the axe starts to cut, because that's exactly the opposite of what I wanted Microsoft to do with all these acquisitions.
So Gold, before we go into discussion of, a little segue into the next podcast, I think that would be a good segue to transition out. I don't know about you guys, but I do have to start getting ready for work pretty soon. I think we've had a very good, healthy discussion on this, a very logical discussion, I would say. I think there's emotion here as well, but I think we kind of see, and we've talked it out to see, hey, this is why it happened. We don't like it. Unless I can speak for all of you guys. We don't like it. It sucks. This stings, but this is something I think that the writing wasn't on the wall, but we can see it now on why it happened.
Yeah.
It sucks, but there's reasons. That's literally how I feel about it. It really sucks, but there are reasons for it. It's not just some choice that Matt Booty woke up this morning and was like, you know what, we're gonna close 4 studios down. No, it's
this probably happened months ago, this decision.
But Gold.
Oh yeah. Elijah Vasquez does say hit that like button, please, people. That does help us get views and discovered. Sorry, Gold. Go
Elijah,
ahead.
you the man. Just 2 things. I'm not in Doom Train right now. I still got a lot to look forward to. Avowed, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. I can't wait. I played most of the Wolfensteins. I lost my save on one of them and just said, I'm done. I don't want to go through that again. But I played New Colossus. I played Old Blood. Really cool things that they're an Indiana Jones first-person puzzle game with fighting done in id Tech. Yeah, I can't wait for Indiana Jones. Obviously, Hellblade. I actually recently played we'll talk about Hellblade in the next episode, I believe. I think that's where we're going.
Yeah.
And then they announced, not to mention, you got Visions of Mana coming out. I've been enjoying Sandland. We got Towerborn coming up. I was watching Colt Eastwood's podcast, X and C. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but from what I overheard in dealing with kids, and that Contraband might be on the horizon, and him and Mag are hearing good things about that. And then lastly, I'm a huge RTS fan. Age of Mythology coming console day one, because Jesse was like I said, I don't know if console day one. Ooh. And what Relic and the support studios did with Age of Empires 4 on controller, I'm excited. 2024 is still looking good for me right now. So, I'm a little disappointed, but like I said before, I have issues with Microsoft and what they're doing, like Windows Phone, Blizzard Team 4, stuff like that.
I still have my Windows Phone if it wasn't for them closing it.
Yeah. So I'll just say that temperature in the room, I have concern, but I'm not dooming right now. No. There's still some good stuff on the horizon this year, and I'm not going to sit there and let this bring me down to place. All on Game Pass, by the way, except Vengeance of Mana, which we don't know. There was a whole debacle, I think it was early this year, where they accidentally put that. So jury's still out on Visions of Mana hitting Game Pass. Probably not, but I'm going to probably allocate funds for that because, I'm a dad and I got a budget.
And I do want to... Oh, go ahead, finish up.
Oh, go ahead, because I was going to tell people about the next podcast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so, I mean, I think you make actually a really great point. I do want to reinforce that, and it's kind of a harsh reality, and it sounds harsh, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but in 3 weeks' time, when the showcase happened, just like last year, and people announced the Starfield delay, 3 weeks' time, these people are going to be back. Oh my God, we have such a great quarter. Next year's going to be great. You know, the people are going to forget. I mean, it sucks. And in 3 weeks time, it happened last year. The showcase happened. Everybody came out. Everybody was like, oh my God, I have so much faith back in Xbox. It's just a, you know, the storm happened. Now we're seeing, yeah, it's a harsh reality. And I think you do bring up a great point. The end of half court or the half year of 2024 is stacked, absolutely stacked. And we don't even have the showcase yet.
Might be the best half a year in gaming that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I also want to say the people in the chat that come and support us, thanks guys. We appreciate that. It's kind of funny to finally see a chat going and stuff like that. It makes this thing more real. We're kind of a small potatoes. You are going on Double Barrel Gaming on Friday, right?
That is correct. I will be a host or a co-host with or a guest, I guess you could say. Actually, yeah, because it's his thing. I'm a co-host here. Sorry, misspoke. I will be a guest on Boom's podcast, Boom Breakfast with Boom, this Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, my time. Guys, please check that out. It's going to be a great discussion. I'm pretty sure I'll be revisiting this discussion with you guys on his podcast if he doesn't do it earlier. But I'm pretty sure this is going to be a discussion that's going to have waves for at least a good week or two until the showcase comes out and we start getting leaks. And then once again, like I said, people are going to forget. So we have the showcase coming up and we still have the second half of Xbox. Is it okay to doom a little bit and be concerned? Yes. Just it's not okay to doom and say Xbox is dead because that's happened 5 or 6 times already.
Never go full doom.
Never go full doom.
Never go full doom. You can have concerns.
It's okay to have concerns. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to, but like, come on, keep it in context. Keep it like real. Let's not go off the rails with all the Phil Spencer needs to be fired. They never knew what they were doing with these studios. Like, all right, cool. I'm playing Fallout 4. I still think that Bethesda's acquisition, ZeniMax acquisition by Microsoft is the best thing that Xbox did because I am enjoying the hell out of these games. I was looking forward to the future of some of these other studios that we found out will no longer be having a future, and that sucks. Absolutely.
My favorite part of
to the next Tango game, the next Roundhouse game, the next Arkane Austin game, but I'll be looking forward to the games from the other studios that goes to instead.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say when Xbox announces Sega acquisition at the showcase queue, you're gonna forget about Tango. So
honestly, I don't want to hear anybody announce any acquisitions.
No, it was a joke. I was just joking.
Yeah. I know you're joking. Sony. Yeah. I don't want to hear Microsoft. I don't want to hear EA. I don't want to hear Ubisoft. I better not hear MEF. Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends. By the way, they're going to be MEF. I better not hear any of these. I don't want to hear anybody acquire anybody for like the next 2 or 3 years. Figure your stuff out. Like, and that's what I want to say to Microsoft. Figure your stuff out.
Yeah, go ahead, Cole.
You wearing that? Shout out to Iron Lords, by the way. You're wearing the shirt. Yeah. But I heard Pong Soul and Iron Lords. He was talking about, you know how Persona, pretty much Sega sending a lot of their games, like Persona, all the Personas went to Game Pass. And then there's Pong Soul actually believes that because of the Ubisoft cloud deal, we might see Splinter Cell. So I'm wondering if a lot of these, I mean, maybe not acquisitions, but maybe some of these cloud deals, because they're both cloud deals, us as Xbox gamers and PC gamers, Game Pass gamers, let's just say Game Pass, because I do both, we're going to benefit from it. So maybe we don't need acquisitions. Maybe these cloud deals are going to bear some fruit. So I'm in Q's camp. Maybe acquisition's not the right thing right now.
Before you go to your second point, before you go to your second point real quick, because you said you had 2, right, Gold?
Oh, the 2 points for Ubisoft.
Before you go okay.
That's the 2.
Oh, all right.
2 points.
You are right. I mean, who knows? I would say a Splinter Cell. I mean, back in I think I'm getting the year right. 2017, there was the whole rumor that Michael Ironside was back in recording lines for a Splinter Cell game.
Oh.
That was back in 2017, though. So I mean,
Well, they said they were doing the. So here's the thing: in order to have faith that like Splinter Cell like shows up so way at Xbox for Xbox, you gotta have faith that Ubisoft is going to like nail Splinter Cell. And
Oh, yeah.
do we really have that with? Do we really have the faith that they're going to do a good job with it? I'm not trying to be, because there's a Ubisoft hate wagon out there, and I'm not trying to be on the Ubisoft hate wagon, but outside of some Choice Studio, Massive Entertainment being their best ones, they haven't been firing on all cylinders with all their game releases, especially with not just the releases, but more so with the games that haven't come out yet.
Yeah, we can definitely do a podcast just on Ubisoft. I'm actually in the camp of hit or miss with Ubisoft, but a lot of their games. My mom's a huge, yes, I said it. My mom, I am 37, so do the math on that. So, is a huge Far Cry fan. So, there's a fan base. There's a lot of people that like Ubisoft
tons
games.
of people still love their games.
They wouldn't be making the same Far Cry and Assassin's Creed games if they weren't profitable and they didn't have a fan base.
The thing
and
is,
when I get a Quest 3, I'm definitely going to play Assassin's Creed Nexus.
Jesse from Xbox Era gave that a very good review. He said he really enjoyed it.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I'll send you the link.
I'm not a VR person. It looked really cool. Like when I saw that trailer for the Assassin's Creed Nexus, it looked really cool. I was like, okay, this is the type of VR experience that like VR headsets need for people to like be into it. But also, it's another thing that just comes with. I already spent $500 on my Xbox. I don't have the. I can't spend all that money for a game or two to play in VR, right? So, but I hope Assassin's Creed Nexus is everything that you want it to be for VR.
Well, guys, I do have to head. I'm so sorry to cut this short. I do have to head out to work.
Yep.
Be on the lookout this Saturday. Do we have a time frame yet, real quick, on when we're going to do the Hellblade podcast? And it is Celtic Food, I believe, is the food discussion.
Are we wanting to do this Saturday, or are we wanting to do maybe
early Saturday morning works best for me. I kind of feel like I have something
Are
planned.
we wanting to do before Hellblade, or are we wanting to do something after Hellblade?
I say before Hellblade, because I have a feeling coming up, they wouldn't have announced this early if they weren't going to have some big showcase Hellblade news coming up, or they weren't going to start the marketing push towards the showcase in Hellblade. So I think maybe a little bit before, but so yes, we'll play it by ear.
We're going to talk, we'll talk about Game Pass drops. We're going to try to do this to coordinate with Game Pass drops so we can talk about that. We'll talk about Game Pass stuff, more positive stuff. We'll talk about Hellblade 2. We're going to talk about what we'd like to see from Ninja Theory. And then we'll end with Celtic food, because Sinua is a Pict, which is a Neolithic people in northern Scotland. So I found that food topic to be very appropriate. We're not talking about food today because we're not hungry.
Yep. And look at that. Look at it. Game Pass Gumbo. Not only informative, or not only, entertaining, but informative as well. Well, guys, that is it for us, I believe. We're going to dip out of here. I guess, why was we always ending? I guess, or I don't know. We don't really have a catchphrase ending. I've just been saying,
this is the second time we recorded. We gotta work our way into that.
We're getting rave reviews from Sir Blood Raven. We appreciate your feedback, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, bud. I would say, eat, love, and game. That's a good. I mean,
I was
don't know.
Say,
eat,
live, great game.
Yeah, eat, love, and game. So, but yeah, we'll figure it out.
Love, try to game, fall asleep.
All right, there you go. Yeah. Eat, love, beer, game, sleep.
Yep. All right.
Awesome,
well,
guys.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 2. Come join us for episode 3 on Saturday.
Thank you, guys. Happy
and
gaming.
Check out,
yes.
Cork on Friday.
Yep.
I guess you're going to promote Game Pass Gumbo there, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. I know he
Maybe.
kind of asks a little bit of it, so I have that podcast.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think he asks usually towards the end, like, "Hey, promote yourself," kind of thing, or we'll, as an introduction. So we'll see on that. We'll see how that goes. But definitely, I'll be talking about Game Pass Gumbo and Xbox Talks when I get the chance.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Eat, love, game.
All right. Thanks again.
Bye.
Are we done?